say, can you see by the dawn's early light, so proudly we hailed at the twilight gleaming, whose but stripes and sing till days when hope unborn as I live with the steady beat and not our will.
Who is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty. I have a dream. Live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream.
Let it stay this way. Can't let this moment. 'Cause darling, without you, from the world, girls,
leadership, and our job was to go around and be civil disobedient by pulling down color-only signs, pulling down white-only signs, walking into a white establishment, sitting at tables, and at the time everybody was sitting. Cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Now, in the biblical sense, the Bible talks about darkness as several symbolic meanings. It's a spiritual ignorancy. Darkness represents the lack of understanding of knowledge. Sin and separation from God is associated with evil and the state of being apart from God. So what we find here, that darkness causes chaos. Darkness can signify disorder, hopelessness, God's presence, and without God, there is nothing but misery. Darkness is also a symbolic of not only misery, but adversity. The work of darkness are impure action. As defined, darkness can be partial, absent without light, symbolic of our political system. Psalms tell us the light is planted for the righteous and gladness for the upright in heart. America can only be made righteous by the obedience of Christ and live soberly and righteously the light of joy and gladness. One of Dr. Martin Luther King's last sermon that he preached at the cathedral, it was titled, "Remain Awake Through a Great Revolution." And the moral of his story, he talked about Rip Van Winkle. Rip Van Winkle went up in the Catskill Mountain and he slept for 20 years. So when he went to sleep, we had King George, I think the 5th, and when he woke up 20 years later, we had President George Washington. And so the moral of Dr. King's story is that we should not fall asleep in this great revolution of freedom.
The late Honorable Dr. Maya Angelou wrote this poem. On her daily commute on the city bus, she said there was a maid, an African-American maid. And she said each time someone would get on the bus, the lady would, ha, 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 ha. And she said she watched her every day. Someone got on the bus, she did it. Someone got off the bus, she did. The bus stopped, she did. The bus go, she did. And she said she watched her. She said, but then she thought about it. She said, well, if you merely know black features, she's merely just extending her lips, showing her teeth, and making a sound. She said, that's that survival apparatus. And she wrote about it, and she called it the mask. We wear the mask that grins and lies. It shades our cheeks and hides our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile with torn and bleeding hearts. We smile and mouth the mere subtleties. Why should the world think otherwise? In counting all our tears and sighs, now let them only see us while we wear the mask. We smile, but oh my God, our tears to thee from tortured souls arise. And we sing, oh baby, we sing. Now we sing. The clay is vile beneath our feet, and long the mile, but let the world think otherwise. We wear the mask. When I think about myself, I almost laugh myself to death. My life has been one great big joke, a song that's walked and a song that spoke. I laughed so hard, I almost choked when I think about myself. 70 years in these folks' world, the child I work for calls me girl. I say, yes ma'am, that's for working's sake, because I'm too proud to bend and too poor to break. So I laugh until my stomach ache when I think about myself. My folks can make me split my side. I laughed so hard, I nearly died. The tales they tell sound just like lying. They grow the fruit, but I eat the rind. I laugh until I start to cry when I think about myself and my folks and all the little children. My fathers sit on benches, their flesh count every plank. The slats leave dents of darkness deep in the withered flanks. And they gnaw like broken candles, all waxed and burned profound. They say, but sugar, it was our submission that made your world go round. So in those pleated faces, I see the auction blocks, the chains and slavery coffles, the whip and lashing stocks. My father speaks in voices that shred and fact my sound. They say, but sugar, it was our submission that made your world go round. They laugh to conceal their crying. They shuffle through the dreams. They stepped and fetched this country and wrote the blues in screams. I understand their meaning. It could and did derive from living on the edge of death. They kept my race alive by wearing the mask. The mask.
My son, what a wonderful.
Come before you again on this Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. Our congregation is proud to have partnered with the African American Club of Pasco for many years, and especially proud of what the club has done for the entire interfaith community in our region, especially with our youth. We look forward to many more years of collaboration in the future, and a big hand to the club and to the youth. This past Saturday in synagogues throughout the world, we began reading the book of Exodus, detailing the evils of slavery, the attempt by our prophet Moses, who is often quoted by Dr. King, to convince the suppressive governing powers, in this case the Pharaoh Ramses of Egypt. But he and Moses came from humble backgrounds, and through their integrity, faith, and persistence, became pivotal leaders. And like Moses, who stood at the mountaintop overlooking the promised land as his life came to an end, Dr. King envisioned the promised land of freedom for all as he spoke to followers in Memphis at the end of his life.
Life is your birthright, they hit that in the fine print. Take the pen and rewrite.
Great orator, someone who stood up for truth and for justice. But you really have to go back to his calling, because he was a man of God. He was called by God to be a prophet for such a time as that back then. Still today, his word speaks volume of the challenges that he faced back then, we as a people faced back then. And we all know today that it's no different today. We are still dealing with a present darkness that's still here in the world today. So here's what I know about your theme, our theme of darkness and light, hate and love.
So how's the weather outside?
Very cold.
Real quiet in here. While we're waiting on our technical difficulties, I guess I'll share with you a couple of fun facts. I was recently in St. Augustine a couple weeks ago, and I didn't know this, but the first time Martin Luther King was arrested in Florida was in St. Augustine. No, I did not get arrested. But I was able to go down there and walk in some of the same spots he walked in. I didn't learn that until after I got back, so that was more interesting to know. Are we ready? Yes, sir. All right, action.
I've been walking with my face turned to the sun.
A lot of what we discussed today has empowered us. Do you feel empowered? Yes. Do you feel like there's something that you can do that can make a difference into today? Yes. So one thing that was said that I absolutely loved is it's not a monument. It's a movement. You caught that. It's a movement. So the first thing that I want to discuss is John chapter 1 verse 5. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome. It's literally the embodiment of all the color spectrum. It's not just one thing in existence by itself. It's all of them together. It's the unification of all the colors.
Miss Janice, so we have two living legends right here in this building who have been in the presence of Dr. Martin Luther King. And I wanted you all to see this because it's not every day you come across someone who has met the great Dr. Martin Luther King or the great Alex Haley. So I just want to say, we'll talk about that another day. But I just wanted to these two wonderful, extraordinary women, I just wanted our youth to see these are living legends who literally are a testament of time. And they have walked with Martin Luther King, and some even have letters from Dr. King. So
I have this autograph. I got his autograph April of 1966 in Miami, Florida.
Isn't that awesome?